Alright, in this video I'm going to make a simple package design in Inkscape, and then I'll take that design and create a mockup in GIMP.
And to begin, I'll press T on the keyboard to get the text tool. I'll click on my canvas, I'll zoom in a bit, and I'll click right there and I'll type whatever I call my package design. So I'll type a word for my package design, and the name of this font is Malvi. Press T right here, this is the name of the font, Malvi Trial. I'll click over to the selection tool, I'll press hold Ctrl and Shift, and I'll scale this up. I'll give the white fill color. I'll press Ctrl D to duplicate that, and I will take this top object and I will just nudge it like that. I'll select the bottom object and I will give it a black fill color for now. And I want to position this top object, this white object, just in a way that I can give it a slight 3D look, just a tiny bit, but not too much. We don't want this to be too much. Something like that is good. You can increase it a little bit, but somewhere there is good, I guess. Somewhere there is good. So I'll click on this white object again and I will press Ctrl D, duplicate that, and we will use that duplicate later. What I want to do is I want to connect some of these areas, right? I want to connect these two areas to make the 3D effect a little bit realistic. And to do that, I'll select over all of these objects. I'll come over to path, object to path. So I'll zoom right in and I'll click on the black object. I'll press B to get the Bezier pen, and I will turn snapping on right there, and I will click right there, I'll click right there, and I will form that shape. And with that selected, I'll shift click on the black object. I'll come, or both with them both selected, I'll come over to path, union, and that gives me that look. And I'll just go around the entire object and I'll do that for all of these corners. Come over right here and I'll do the same for this rounded corner as well. Press B and I'll click somewhere there. I'll click right there, and we will obviously adjust these as well. So it's okay if it's not perfect right away. And I will shift click on this object, path, and union. And as you can see, this is not perfect, but that's okay. I'll press N to get the nodes tool, and I will select both of those nodes and delete them. Actually, no, I won't do that. Click on that node and I'll delete that, and I will select that node, delete that, and that one as well. Delete all of those nodes. I'll click right there and I'll pull this out, and I'll just make this a little bit smoother. Yeah, that looks pretty good now. So the 3D part of our design is completed. I will now click on this white object, and I have two copies of this white object. As you can see, I'll actually press Ctrl D and create another copy. So I have three copies of this white object now, and with the top copy selected, I will give that a different fill color, something like that, and I'll just nudge it to the right and up about that much. Right about there is good enough, and I'll zoom right in. I will, with that selected, I will shift click on this bottom object. I'll go to path and difference, and I will, with that object selected, that differenced object, that result that we got, I will give that a different color, like a darker color, like that object. Press Ctrl Z, and what I want to do is I want to fix these corners right here, these areas. I want to fix these areas now in the same way as I did for the black object right here. So To do that, what I will do is I will press N to get the nodes tool, and I will make sure the snapping is turned on, and I will select both those nodes, snap them right there, and I will just adjust all of these different corners manually like that. I'll do the same thing right here, select both of those nodes, and I will select both those nodes, and I will pick that up, and I'll snap it right there, and I'll just follow along and do the same thing for all of these corners. And so with that done, our text object is pretty much completed now. I will just color this up, and I'll click on this black object, and I will give it a dark blue color, that one. I'll click on this top object, and I will give it that color. No, I'll give it that color, and I will let this color be the same. And now I will bring two images into Inkscape to complete our packaging designs. I've imported my image into Inkscape, and I'm going to remove its background using the Bezier pen. So I'll press B, and in this menu right here, you want to select this third option, create B-spline path, and I'm just going to follow along the boundaries of this object, and I will remove its background quite easily. I'll zoom right in, click right there, and I'll just go around its boundary. Or once you've completed that tracing, you'll get this result. And with that selected, you'll shift click on this object. With them both selected, right click and click on set clip, and that will remove that background like that. And once you've done that, what I'll do next is I will bring in another image. Alright, I've already removed the background for this image. As you can see, it's pretty complex, and it would take a really long time to do this in the video. But go ahead and try to just find an image that doesn't have a background, that can that looks something similar to this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my text object as well right in here, and I will begin forming our final design. Before I actually do that, I will click on this object, and I will flip it like that, and I want to give this a look that this chocolate splash is going around this chocolate bar. And to do that, what I want to do is I'll place this object right there where I think it should be. Right, I'll place it right there, and what I will do is I will press Ctrl D to duplicate that, and I will right click on that, and I'll click on release clip, and then I'll click on this object, and I will bring this to the top. Alright, so to achieve this, I want this part of the chocolate bar to be on top of this object, and I want this part right here to be below it. To do that, I will press B to get the Bezier pen, and I will clip out this part of the chocolate bar, and I'll click right there, and I will form a straight line like that, and I will go around the chocolate bar like that. I'll join it right there, and with that selected, I will shift click on this other object that we created. With them both selected, go to path, intersection, and with that selected, shift click on this image, right click, set clip. Once you've done that, and lower this, click on this image and lower this, Click on this part right here and raise it to the top. Click on this this other object that we have, this other image or clipping, and lower that to the bottom, and we got a visual imperfection right here. Okay, that looks fine. All right, I'll turn snapping off and I'll adjust the positioning of this a little bit. So right there looks good, looks good enough. There is good. So that is how you can do that as well. I'll click on this object again and I will just make it a little bit bigger. And click right there, I'll click again and I will rotate this a tiny bit. Okay, looks pretty good. So with that done, I'll select both of those and I will bring them like closer a little bit and I'll make them a little bit bigger. Take my text object and I'll place it right there. I'll click on the rectangle tool and I will make a big rectangle to cover everything. Lower that to the bottom and I will give this a light blue color. I'll click on this splash. I'll duplicate that with Ctrl D and I will place this object right here and I will duplicate it again and I will place that object, I will flip it on the horizontal axis and I will flip it on the vertical axis as well, and right about there is good. I think maybe I'll make the text object a tiny bit bigger, and that pretty much is the end of our flat design. Actually, one last thing. I'll press T to get the text tool. I'll click on the canvas and I'll just type the word chocolate bar, and I will come over to the fonts and I will give that, I'll change the font to Montserrat. I'll change the font to Montserrat and I will from this drop down menu I will select heavy. Actually maybe I'll go with ultra bold. Yeah, that's good. And I will press D to get the dropper tool. I'll zoom right in and I'll give it that color. And I will pick this object up, place it right there. I'll hold Ctrl and Shift, scale it down. I'll scale it down a tiny bit, like that. I'll place this object a little bit lower, like there. And I will make this, place it right there. So our flat design is basically done right there. Now if you want to finalize your design, you can obviously cut these parts out if you want to. I won't do that yet because I want to mock these designs up, but if you're happy with this, what you can do is, and you want to finalize this object or this design, what you will do is you will right click on this object, you will click release clip, click on this blue object, press Ctrl D, shift click on that object and path intersection, and then right click and with selected object, shift click on the image, right click and set clip. So if you're happy with your design, you can do that if you want to. I'm not going to do that, but once you want to finalize your design, you can finalize it in that manner. And obviously So I went ahead and changed the color to orange from blue color. Before I move on though to the next part of the design, I want to state that this is obviously not a complete design. This is only the front part of the design. You will also create the back part of the design where you'll have your labels, your barcodes, your about section, your ingredients maybe. So all of that has to go in the back section, and I'm not going to do that in this video. I don't have really any content for that. But to make a complete design, you will also create a back part and a front part, and some of these elements from the front design are going to bleed into the side. So you don't actually have to necessarily design the sides. You will just take the color, this color, and some elements will bleed into that. So just wanted to state that. And I'm just going to take this background, this orange background. I'll hold Ctrl and Shift and I'll scale this up, maybe not that much, to let's say that much, right? And I will import this image, right? I will create a PNG file of this this graphic, and we'll go to GIMP and I will create a mockup to present our design. So once you open up GIMP, you will see an interface very similar to this one. And so I'll go ahead and bring in my designs. I'll click on File, click on Open, and I will bring in my original design that I just created. Right, so whichever one that is, we'll look for that, and so I'll bring in this design. I'll click on Open, and I will also bring in another file that I will use to create the mockup, right? And so this time what I'll do is I'll click on File, I'll come over to this option, I'll click on Open as Layers. Everything you create or everything you import into GIMP will have its own separate layer. So just to make that clear, and I'll just hit enter. So that's the file I'm going to use to create my mockup. And I want this, as you can see right here on the layers, right? I want this wrapper to be at the bottom. I want this mockup asset to be at the bottom. I'll come back over to this other layer where I have this original design of mine. I'll press Shift and S on the keyboard and I will scale this image. I'll hold Ctrl and Alt on the keyboard and I will click on one of these corners and I will just drag them in about that much, and I'll click on Scale and I'll click right here to go back to the Move tool and I'll zoom right in. So now, being in this layer, I'll come over to the opacity and I'll drop the opacity, and I want to place this design in a way that looks best, right? So the image is still too big. I'll press Shift and S and I will scale it down some more. Hold Ctrl and Alt to proportionally scale the image down. I'll click Scale. I'll go back to the Move tool with that button, and I will go ahead and place my design appropriately. And I think right about there looks quite nice. Maybe so that looks nice. I'm happy with the placing of that one, and I'll just click I'll go ahead and take the opacity back to 100, and right above the opacity you can see right here there is a mode option available right here, and next to it we have this drop down menu, and by default it's set to normal. Go ahead and open that up and change it to burn, and you'll get a result something similar to this one. And once you've done that, come over to the layer tab, and while already being in this layer, right, so make sure you select this layer, right? You're already on the image layer or on the design layer. Click on this button to duplicate this layer, and then go back to the mode, and this time I'm going to select multiply, and I'm going to drop the opacity to about let's say 80. Let's say around 80 looks good. I think around 80 is pretty good. You can go a little bit higher. The higher you go though, it does get darker and less bright. We will fix that though. We will fix that in a moment. I think somewhere there is pretty good. I think somewhere there is fine. If you don't like the colors, you can obviously you can use some other modes as well. You can come back over here, and instead of going with burn, you can go with linear burn. Come back over to this other layer, to the top layer, and change this to screen, and drop the opacity down to, let's say, 21.5, somewhere there. Yeah, so that is, this will give you a little bit of a different look, where it's a little bit more, it doesn't look very bright and shiny, but it keeps some of the details. But I like that other style better, so I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to set this to burn, and I'm going to go back here. I'm going to set this to multiply, and I will set this value to right about there is good. So already this is almost done, and if you are happy with your result, this is pretty much it. You can just export your design. You can go to File and click on Export. But I want to make some few changes to this. So while being in this layer, come over to the Colors tab and click on Saturation, and this small menu will pop up, and just take the scale value and take it all the way to the max. Maybe not max, maybe take it all the way to right about there is good. We can also turn the preview off to see the difference. So I like this, and I will hit OK, and that will be finalized. I'm gonna go to the Colors tab again, and I will click on Brightness Contrast, and this time what I'll do is I'll take the contrast and I will slide it up just a tiny bit, and you can check the preview to see what it did. You can also mess around with the brightness if you want to. So I'm happy with the way it looks right there, so I'll just hit OK. And so that's pretty much the end of this video. That right there is how you can create some mockups from your for your designs.